folks, Mrs. Science here. We're going to explain to you today how to begin programming your LEGO EV3 robot to just use the motors, in which case they'll be plugged into ports A, B, C, or D. You'll have the following tasks to complete. The first will be to get your robot to drive in a square. You'll need to turn 2 motors on to do this. You're then going to mimic a school zone where you pretend to drop off your child at school. So you would drive quickly, the power all the way up in the green area. You would then slow your robot down in the yellow area. You would need to wait for your child to get out of the car, slowly drive away, turn, and quick speed off. You'll find these trapezoid layouts on the floor. Please make sure not to run your robot into other robots. And the last will be Play-Doh pickup. So you'll add, in addition to the 2 motors, a third motor to retrieve a small container of Play-Doh. Alright, let's get started. So my program is going to look slightly different than yours because I'm using a desktop version. If you were to be using it on your app, you would have the same move flags here, along with the sound, display. You would also have the flow control, and that's really all you need for what we're going to be completing in class. So to start off, to make your robot move, you're going to be either moving with steering or moving with tank. Now if you drag this out, you can actually control both ports, B and C. You can change these, and then the power level. How long you want it to happen for, right? Currently it's on rotations. That's a really good way to measure things, is how many rotations of the wheel. It's more accurate than, say, seconds. And we'll do some instances where your motors will just stay on until something else happens. You may have to turn them off at some point. Your power level right here. So if you want your motors to go forward, you'll be in the positive versus in the negative. That will make them back up. And then how long do you want that to happen for? And since we're set to rotations here, you can change rotations on here. What's important to note is that you can use decimals. It doesn't have to be a whole number. So if it's something between 1 and 2, you can say 1.5, 1.75. So moving on, you can also use the tank option. So in this case, you can actually have the robot move different power levels for each port. So this will be a wider turn versus this is what's called a pivot turn. You could have one motor going forward, one going backwards by having one be positive and one be negative. Same setup. You can change how long it's on for, and then how long this actual value is right here. Eventually, if you'd like to have your robot display something, you can mess around with that, or if you want it to say something. Some people are very humorous in this. Just make sure everyone finds it funny. If you ever want to get rid of something just by clicking on it, you can hit the delete button and they'll disappear. On the app version, I think it's a little different. I think if you just double click here, there's a delete option or copy or cut. The last thing you're going to want to know about, just to make your life a little bit easier, is you have the control options down here. So you may be waiting for something. You may have 2 things happening at once. You may have what's a loop and then a switch. So we'll get into the loops and switches a little bit later. But just to make your robot drive forward and then make a turn, right? So if you drove forward for a certain amount of time and then had your robot physically make a 90-degree angled turn, a right-hand turn, and then repeat that 4 times, that would make your robot drive in a square. So there's a couple ways to do that. The first would be just turning 2 motors on. So if I have B and C on for a certain amount of time, and then I can drag another block out here and have only 1 motor on. So perhaps I'm just turning right, turning B for 1 rotation. Now, if this, I would try this first. If this does not drive straight and then your robot does not make a long enough turn or it's too short, you may have to guess and check how long this is going for. This is the number that you're going to have to change. Is how many rotations does that take? So if you do 1 and it's not long enough, you do 2, it's too long, it's going to be somewhere in the middle there. You could also use the view command on your actual robot to measure rotations, but sometimes it's just easier to run it and check it and see if that happens. So what I could do is I could repeat this section 4 times. The easiest way to do that is with a loop. So if I drag the loop on out, I can select anything that's inside the loop will be what's repeated. So if I only want it to go for a certain amount of time, instead of unlimited, which will go forever, I can actually have it based on counting. So I know that a square has 4 sides. So if I did this each 4 times, in theory, my robot would drive in a square. So if you wanted to download that, test it out, see if it works for you, great. Please save this program to your device and also show your instructor for credit. So for this section of your robotics curriculum, what I would like to see is your robot driving the square, your robot completing the school zone. So now you'll know how to have both motors on, only one motor on, both motors but at a lower power. You'll wait. You can even display something here. You can have your robot say goodbye. Have your robot drive slowly. Make one motor turn, or you can do the steering, and then have it drive quickly away. And then the last will be, you're going to actually add a mechanism onto your robot. You're going to use 3 motors in this case to drive forward and then to pick something else up. You'll have to see the instructor to get the additional motor. Once you have screenshotted and put these things on your portfolio, ask what you can do for next.